said, this is for informational purposes only. It's not for debates, so they can present the information and for you to ask a couple of questions and get some responses. You guys can take it from here.
Okay. There's an echo. Someone's got to come.
Is your sound on?
Did you do it? Okay. Thank you.
We got an echo.
Do we have people online?
We do. We have about, including myself and my participants.
Okay. So we are here tonight to tell you about the new high school project. It's been a lot of work. We're very excited about it. I'm just going to introduce a few people, and then we'll go to whatever part of the explanation, description you'd like to see and hear and talk about. So thank you to Jen Priest for running this for us. Martha Simon, who is on the building committee and was right from the start an extremely strong advocate for the high school project. Thank you, Martha. Doug Davison, who's the chairman of Ways and Means. Christy Lyons from Consigli, the construction company. Chris Blesson, who is, don't blush or anything, Chris, but he is an awesome architect. He is just, he took AR8 and made it into something like really nice. I think you know Bob Cuna behind me, Dr. Conti, and Terry is our OPM, and he has been working so hard, so often, that he is he's getting into hero territory for all the work he's doing on this. So Terry will proceed with his demonstration of what we're doing, and we hope that you will find it interesting and ask whatever questions you need to ask or would like to ask. Thank you.
Thanks. So good evening, everyone. My name is Terry Hartford, as Chris mentioned. I sent this presentation out to all of you late last week. I'm hoping that some of you have had an opportunity to view it. I'm actually going to likely skip through some of these first slides. Obviously, you know there's a school building committee. Town meeting funded at $1.5 million about 2.5 years ago for a feasibility study and the schematic design. You can see the members of the school building committee here. Chris mentioned our firm, TAPE, is also the architect, and Consigli is our construction manager. We've been in discussions with a whole host of different organizations, boards, committees in town as we work through this process. This has been a process that has followed the MSBA in terms of how you hire an OPM, a designer. You go through feasibility, ultimately schematic design, which has brought us to where we are now, which is approaching town meeting to ask those members to approve the borrowing subject to a debt exclusion. Last night we met with the select board. I'm happy to announce that they voted in favor of approving that warrant or recommending approval. It was a unanimous decision. And so that's where we are right now, which brings us kind of to the meat of this presentation, which is what is the project? And so I encourage, or we encourage you to interrupt and ask questions as Chris or Christy or I touch on things. This is meant to be an open forum, and we're happy to. Absolutely. Yep. Is that better? Hopefully. Thank you for that. What's that?
I was joking. We have to have Bob come in and fix these.
Yep. So that's kind of the first 7 or 8 slides of the presentation that we provided you previously. So with that, or I'm going to touch on the timeline. Obviously, town meeting is on Monday. The debt exclusion vote, subject to the select board selecting a date, is likely to be on or about November 15th. Assuming we have a positive outcome there, we will go into detailed design, which will take approximately 15 months. We are looking to start construction in the spring of 27 on the new academic wing. That would open for students in the fall of 29, and we'd wrap up the project in the summer of 2030. So that is our broad schedule. And so with that, I'm actually going to turn this over to Chris and talk about how we got to where we got to. So Chris, feel free, and I can go through the slides as you instruct.
All right, thanks, Terry. So to start the process out, we examined the entire school as it sits today. It's 369,165 square feet. We started out by trying to figure out strategies by which we would go through analyzing the building, because it's pretty complex, has a bunch of floors. The floors are multiple levels. They use a bunch of ramps down the main streets, and there's elevators in all the sections. And so we tried to figure out how the building lays out by itself, and then how the education happens on the inside. On the slide where we show the educational program, we just went ahead and did some highlight of the fact that the science rooms, they're antiquated to start with. All the equipment in there is from the original to the building, hasn't been upgraded, and the teaching and methodologies and learning, the way students learn in the 21st century has changed quite a bit since when the building was built, necessitating different modes of classroom, and these classrooms can't actually do that. And also, as we sort of get our heads around how to talk about it, you realize that actually none of the educational spaces, the classrooms where students spend time on learning, that are on the first floor, none of them have windows, because the first floor has pre-K, and I'm talking about high school classrooms, so the pre-K is on the first floor in one wing, the admin's on the first floor of another wing, and then the high school admin's on the first floor of the other wing. And so these core components of the inside classrooms, media centers, classrooms, science wings, just don't have access to natural light, which is a big drawback, and it puts Burlington High School students at a disadvantage compared to their neighboring schools in neighboring communities. We also want to highlight that the classrooms would change in this proposal to a more standard size that is applicable to all rooms. You have quite a variation today, and they range anywhere from 485 square feet to a little over 1,000 square feet, and this proposal looks to streamline that to a more consistent number, which allows more flexibility in how the building's programmed, and how it can adapt over time with the enrollment and offerings that are happening within. And we also listed a few others there that we can come back to if people are interested in that. The design enrollment is for 1,100 students, and the proposed high school itself would be around 272,394 square feet. The next slide shows, again, some of those deficiencies you can see in the top left there. One of the science rooms. Is it not on the screen anymore?
Oh. All right.
There we go. Top left is one of the science rooms from the 1970s, and one of the sort of major dysfunctional things about these science rooms is the inability to properly dispose of chemicals that are used for modern science inquiries and science experiments. If you go down in the lowest level of the building, you'll find some glass piping that hasn't been used in a long time. That's the old way of doing it. And so it doesn't work now. We talked about the windows and the technology in the classrooms. You see the long ramps there that are on both sides of the building, the streets, and then the mechanical systems are all sort of reaching the end of their useful life. There's a lot of robust reporting on this on the project website if you want to dig deeper into each individual category or each individual system. The next slide shows some goals and vision for where we want to go related to safety. So when we show the site plan in a second, you'll notice some very key major upgrades in how the site can operate from a safety perspective. We want to enhance identity on the school site, knowing where entries are, where entrances and exits should be, and how students come in and out of the building. On the right-hand picture there, you can see what is currently the existing entry to the building, and to the right of that, just out of frame, is the outside wall of the auditorium. And the reason I mention that is because when I show the auditorium in a second, I want you to have a reference for how the students currently get into the building, which is right at the edge of the auditorium, and they have to go from the parking lot to that point right there, and the new proposed scheme only pushes that about 100 feet around the corner from that existing spot. So there is really no major difference in arrival and entry point for the major entry to the high school from the student lot. The next slide shows some envisioned character or, again, goals for the building. We would like to introduce a lot of natural light. This isn't just because it looks cool. It's a very well-documented fact that natural light in school buildings helps increase the collaboration between students, but also the work results, the student grades, the effect of student and learning. They are in this building for a long time, and it is intended for them to do good things and do hard work, and so that access to natural light only helps influence that. And we want to increase the access to some natural materials. So the building currently is concrete, and there's a lot of concrete everywhere. And so we want to soften that up a little bit with bringing the outside in. The connection to nature is important for learning and teaching and learning as well. So those are some goals that we want to do. And then making learning visible and accessible through various things like moving partitions or glass walls that help students feel part of the community and engaged in all the things that are happening in the building. And so the next slide shows an aerial image of rendering of what this proposed project would look like. You can see Varsity Field there on the left side, and then the student lot in the middle between everything. The proposed addition is going to go out to basically the east side of the existing auditorium and gyms and music hall. And you can see there the pathway. It'll show up again on one of the site plans, but you can see there that the road that comes through the middle of the site between the Center for Education and the high school is essentially the same path that I talked about earlier where the students walk into the building currently. It's basically in the same spot or coming down where that wing was. So the actual access path there really isn't much different than what it is today. The next image shows the site plan, and so we can talk a little bit more about how this works. Again, the more kind of tan colors are additions to the building, and the white areas are renovations. So you would enter the site down Dottie's Way around where the Varsity Field is, and you come up the access road just like you do today. And then you can see right around where the cursor is now, you would take a right-hand turn, and this is for cars. The car traffic would come in there and then start to form a queue from one end of that drive to the other. And it's wide enough to allow the queuing to happen against the curb, passenger side of the car, which is the ideal side for drop-off, and then it has a passing lane too for when someone's done, they can sort of get in the passing lane and leave. The reason this is important is because currently you get a really, really long backup onto Dottie's Way that goes well beyond the student lot. And the backup there starts to get chaotic when the buses are trying to pass as well and get to the back of the building where they, or any part of the building when they're trying to pick up. I personally have been caught in this and seen some things, some challenges there. And so this opens up the ability for us to separate the car pickup from the bus pickup, which is a pretty big hallmark of school design. The blue area, which is in the sort of horseshoe out in the front of the school. So there's a small addition on the south side of the building, which is administration. That would become the, quote, main entry for most daily activities. Just to the right of that's a smaller arrow that would be an entry point for events in the auditorium or stuff like that. But this becomes the main entry plaza that allows for separate bus pickup and drop-off. So when the buses come in, they can come into that area separately, be safe, open up their doors, and then it doesn't shut down the entire site. Like now, if you were to pull a bus into any part of this site and open the doors, it just shuts everything down. No passing, no anything until the buses are done with their loading and unloading. And again, if you look at this from a site plan perspective, you see the student lot up in the north side. And students would most likely in the morning during the high peak time of coming and going from the building, that's the morning coming and the afternoon going, the students could come in down at the lower area near the gym and enter the building and come in. But then outside of that sort of 10-minute window, or whatever Bob and his team programmed that for, those doors would lock. So if a student's a little bit delayed, or if they decide not to operate it that way, then they would just come up and around the building, probably clockwise around the building, just like I'd said before, which is exactly what they do now. That corner of the auditorium right next to the 4, in that right where the cursor is the main entry today. And so you can see how close that is in terms of relative consideration to what students do today. The next slide is a bird's eye view from the south and east. So this is probably if you flew a drone over Cambridge Street. This is partly the image you would see. And again, what we're trying to show here is the classroom wing on the right-hand side. It is 4 stories on that side because the earth kind of slopes down towards the bottom side. And the lowest level is the cafeteria. I'll show you the floor plans in just a second, but then it's 3 floors of classrooms and academic space above that, sort of matched to the scale of the existing building. So you can tell that this building is not much, if it is higher, it's not much higher than the existing fly loft for the auditorium, and probably at about the same level as the other parts of the building up higher in elevation, like the Center for Education. You can also see the Center for Education on the left there, and the small flat part to the right of that area, it would be pre-K. And then everything else in there really kind of remains similar programming except for the first floor, and I'll show you what that looks like in just one second.
Can you just clarify, when you say the Center for Education, you refer to the Early Childhood Center?
That's part of it. So the early childhood, the pre-K is on that, see where the cursor is right now?
Yep.
That's the existing cafeteria today, and the plan is to move pre-K into that. And then everything else in that building has to do with educational components in Burlington. And so we've been calling it the Center for Education because it has some education adjacent reality to it.
Gotcha.
And the high school is a separate building. The reality is that is existing space. So I just want to make sure that's clear. That's existing space. We're cutting the middle out of this building, salvaging a part for the high school and salvaging the part for the Center for Education, which really gives the bang for the buck on how to take this building apart and make it into.
Bob, you have a question?
I do. You just mentioned about the Burlington Education Center, but I see what looks like 3 other sections, I don't know what term you would use, that are off that. Could you explain what the proposal is, what would be going on in those structures?
You want to take the first crack?
What do you mean by sections?
He's talking about this right here. 1, 2, 3.
Sorry, Derek.
Right. It's these 3 right here, right, Bob?
Well, it looks like 4.
Right. So
Oh, okay. Okay. So yeah, the left side, which you can see is 2 stories, that's central admin, the superintendent's office, and the central district control. The bottom portion, which is that right there, is I think tech is in there, district tech, district welcome center. There's some storage, district storage in there that exists right now. That's the sort of double doors, big overhead doors. That's in there. BCAT is in that part as well. And Science Center is in there currently. We're going to move the Science Center to the front edge, which is more facing the high school. We can actually do this in the floor plan because I think it shows up better there, which is in a couple slides. Can we come back to that in just a second?
Sure, and
Okay.
Can we save the questions for the end, please?
Well, yeah, no, we're trying to encourage, yeah, no, we're more than,
I pulled online to wait for the end, so I'll.
right, well,
so can I put on another question? Is that okay?
yes, absolutely.
So it looks like there's, two separate campuses, or, there's four,
Mhm.
with a lot of different things. That you just mentioned, BCAT, Education Center. But then there's the, grassy area. So, you must have wondering about the electric, all the systems.
Mhm.
You're not contained in one structure, so I don't know, it doesn't look, I don't know if they're underground or you got a major investment to bring all the systems that you need, because it's I don't know how big that space is, but how wide it is to get them, so that you need full light, electric.
Yeah, yes.
Whatever you want to answer, but that's something.
Yeah, it's a good question. The current proposal has the services coming in, so we do have to split those. And then there's also connection. They will be linked underground. There's already tunnels underground. From one end to the other, where the main streets are, there's a tunnel underground in the building right now that connects those two. We can't maintain it in a walkable way that it is right now because of the way the site has to be cut to allow for that road to work. But there is a utility corridor that's going to remain, so we can actually connect the two buildings with technology and other main services, but they will independently operate, which is essentially, if we had to design this building from scratch, it already has several different connection points. I think there's a couple electrical services. There's like vaults in different places. So although you see it as one building right now, it has multiple layers on it right now, as it sits right now. And so we're just sort of taking out the middle portion, connecting where we need to connect to make it where the buildings can talk to each other, but they will be functionally separate. And that's really not much different than how it works today.
So for the benefit of people online, the question was about this building here, which is existing presently. And as Chris mentioned, it currently houses district admin, some district storage, BCAT, the Science Center. This portion of the building here is the existing cafeteria, which will be renovated and transitioned to the Early Education Center, which is the existing facility that houses, I think it has approximately 110 students. It will have a slightly bigger space that actually will be designed to be more appropriate for that age group. When you think about where they are now, they're just in classrooms and rooms that were originally meant for high school students as opposed to 3 to 5-year-olds. So that's, yeah, absolutely.
Just hang on, okay. I wanted to make two things. I forgot at the beginning to mention that Catherine Bond, who's the chair of this building committee, is away on business, and that's why I'm here as the vice chair. But relative to the current cafeteria becoming the new early childhood center, we have a lot of children that have to start in our programs at the age of 3. Because they come out of early intervention and they need services, and they're entitled to services from the age of 3 until the age of 22. So in the past, when we didn't have this program, before we built it at the high school, all of the children had to be placed, all of the children with special needs had to be placed out in private placements, and we had to pay tuition for every child that we placed out. So some years ago, and Martha might remember how many, I don't, we made our own early childhood center. It's a program where we have the kids who have needs, and we have typically growing, adjusting kids that What?
The word is neurotypical.
That's right, neurotypical. And they pay actually tuition to go to the school. It's a preschool. It's for kids that are 3 to 5, and occasionally someone will have to stay a little longer. But we also need additional space for that program because we have some children who, when they reach the age of 5, they're not ready to move on to an elementary school. So we need some space for transitional classrooms. So this building that you're looking at, which is existing already, if you go in one end, you're in the superintendent's office, the school committee room. If you walk all the way down the other end, you're in the cafeteria. And that's the part that is the perfect place. The current early childhood center will be taken down. It's part of the building that has to go because of accessibility issues. So I'm trying to emphasize the importance of this space, no matter what you call it or what building it's in, and the design of it so that it has the right classrooms with windows and toilets that are little for 3-year-olds and all of the right things so that we can provide the best education for our kids and not have to spend a lot of money on tuition for every single one. So Martha, you seem
It doesn't go very far? Okay. I also wanted to clarify, it's my understanding, so in that area that we're talking about now, that we're calling the Center for Education, we're also going to have space for some programming, high school programming, that it doesn't really have enough space, so like the Robotics Club, which is one of our most popular clubs, the Computer Science Career Pathway, so that's one of the vocational things that we do in the district. So there are other educational programming going on in there. The district maintenance, where we maintain our vehicles, I believe, is going to stay in that area. We'd have to find another place to put that and build or rent or renovate something. So that area is meeting a lot of needs in addition to the Early Childhood Center, which has to get moved from where it is now.
Just a note before we move on, there's been a request online that if you're asking a question, if you could project your voice a little more and identify yourself, because BCAT's not always zoomed in on the audience when you're asking. Thank you.
So I'll repeat the questions unless we want to do a microphone. I'll do whatever you guys want. Yeah, so I'll repeat the question.
What is the final cost on the whole renovation of that part of the building, the Center for Education?
So that question was asked last night, and I'm in the process of doing that right now.
Question is?
The question is, what is the cost for renovating this particular space? I would estimate it's approximately $65 million for that space. It's about 95,000 square feet. It comes out to about $700 a square foot, just to kind of give people a frame of reference. The police station is $1,400 a square foot. It's for 34,000 square feet. So one, it's a needed space, and two, because it's a renovation, I think you really do take advantage of the fact that it's there and that we're renovating it as opposed to building something new.
Thank you.
Yep. But, and just so we're clear on that particular question, I'm working with Christy and Christy Lyons, who's pre-con executive at Consigli, to kind of hone in on that number. And I think, it's important, and, I am going to amend this presentation for town meeting, and we'll make sure that point is made.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
You got it.
Okay, the next image is rotating around the opposite side of the building, looking at it from the north and west. If you had your drone, it would be over the adjacent neighborhood there. And the gym area, the gyms are right in the sort of foreground of the building there. Those are existing to remain. And then you can see the classroom wing to the left of that, the new classroom wing, and the new entry for the high school. And then up sort of in the background of the image is the Center for Education, where we are severing the building out there. And so that's just another view. The next slide is a view of the main entry. And so again, you can start to imagine how the buses are coming in, how the cars are coming in on the access road there and dropping off, and then the buses in the horseshoe drop-off lane. And then there's a small parking lot in the middle that would be used for probably primarily some admin or visitors, and then the parking for disabled parking up front there. And like I said, Terry, I don't know if you can put your cursor on the corner of the auditorium where that crosswalk is going across the road. That is essentially the front entry to the building currently today. Yes.
How many disabled spots are there? There's not
Yeah, I haven't counted them, but they're going to be whatever's prescribed in the planning board's regulations, so.
And the question was?
So the question was
How many handicap spots are in the program? I'm sorry, we'll try to do better at that.
Okay.
What percentage of the actual building that's there now is going to be left after this?
What?
Do we have that stat?
The current building is going to be left alone after you take the middle of it.
I think when you add, so the question is how much space is actually existing to remain that's going to get renovated effectively, right? So adding in the 2 auditoriums and the auditorium, the 2 gymnasiums, I believe that figure is approximately 170,000 square feet. Yeah.
Which equals maybe a third.
Right.
Of the building is existing to remain, and the rest of it's going to be new. But the total, yeah. Okay, so the next image is slightly zoomed out. I guess we're just still circling around here from different angles. You can see the left side of this picture is the playground and shows more of how the preschool would work. You start to see a little bit inside the courtyard area of the high school, which is really programmed for outdoor learning environment. You can see the bridge that is a connector on the second floor of the 2 wings of the high school. This actually becomes a pretty critical component to the programming, because you need, if you can imagine being at the end of one wing and trying to get to the other wing for classroom, putting the adjacent connector in the middle of the floor plate on the second floor, not the first floor or the third floor, creates a 1 floor down across, and then you're in wherever you need to go. And so, so we feel like this is a strategy that we'd like to use on the bridge. And then the view from the south. Yeah, from the south side there, it's kind of zoomed out from the main entry road that we saw before. Again, nothing sort of new to say on that. So let's just go right into the floor plans here. So this lowest level floor plan shows you the gyms that.
I didn't see what's in the existing student parking lot. Does that stay as an existing student parking lot?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So we just have to repeat the question. So the question was, does the existing student parking lot remain? And the answer to that question is yes, and hopefully I can find an image that demonstrates that it is right here.
The first image shows it.
Yeah.
Way back.
Way back. It's right here.
Yeah.
So this remains. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay.
Get resurfaced.
I want to just jump in with, we showed the playground, and some of you will remember Jan Donovan. The playground was named after Jan Donovan years ago, the playground at the Early Childhood Center. And she was just a really great person. And we will make sure that the playground that is moved will still be the Jan Donovan Playground with all of the equipment that has been brought in for the kids. Just wanted to make that point.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, so the floor plan here, the proposed lower floor plan, this is the lowest level of the entire building or campus. It has the gyms and the locker rooms and currently the boiler plant. And that area in the red is the area of renovation, and so that all of that would be existing to remain. We would refinish all the gyms. I think the wood floor in the gym that was done recently can stay because it's in great shape. We would just do the mechanicals and painting above that, protect the floor. And then everything else gets a refresh. The teal color there is the cafeteria and dining, and that's it's a good spot for that because it's adjacent to all the large programs, so you can have bleed out from the large gym spaces if you need to for events or whatever. You can host like some breakout space there. But it also gives a little bit of vertical height to the cafeteria because that lowest level is down enough feet to where the cafeteria won't feel like a very flat space, which is nice for dining. And then the unexcavated portions. And so then you go up to the first floor plan, and you can see here the dashed red area, again, is the renovation portion. So there's a slight addition to the left, which is mostly admin. And then the big addition to the right, which is mostly academic program. And so the biggest thing here is that the first and second floors really kind of are similar with classrooms, general classrooms, media, breakout, all that kind of stuff that you need. And then the third floor plan at the top of the building is all science, and that's in the window, the little square there in the center top of this image. It says third floor plan there. That has all the science rooms on it, on that floor, and that was sort of intentional in the way high school programs work, is that there's a big symbiosis in how science programs work, and the team works together. And so if we were to scatter those on multiple floors around the building, you would lose some of that continuity. And so we got them all on one floor plate here. And then core academic and other categories, other departments are on the second and first floor. The next slide is the long-promised Center for Education floor plan. You can see some of the breakout in color there, how it breaks out the little various parts in different areas. So just to read them out loud, the Center for Education currently is housing Academic Support Area 123, BCAT, BECC, which is the Burlington Early Childhood Center, BTech, Central Admin. It's got circulation, which is just a fancy term for hallways, custodial and back of house, district maintenance, a family welcome center, which is really important for new families in the district. It's got high school programs in restroom and science center. And so some of those high school programs are related to the things that Martha mentioned, but to reiterate, there's robotics, there's computer science, there's also a preschool program that is part of the high school, not the early childhood center that's in here, that's adjacent to the early childhood center, but allows the preschool, the function of the high school to operate separately. So there's a good relationship amongst those two components. And then, all these emerging programs that the district is looking to house has room to function and grow in this plan.
If I could ask/clarify again, my question is the BTech. Am I understanding that BTech means all the IT support staff that we have that help run all the computers and networks in the district? Is that accurate?
Yes.
Yes, okay. And of that, it's my understanding that currently those offices are all in the part of the building that is going to be demolished, and so they need a space, and so they're going to be one of the programs, space services or whatever, and staff are going to be there, and that's a really important use of this Center for Education as well. Is that an accurate description?
I think we'd have to move one of the server rooms that are in the building that's going to be torn down, and there are some people who work directly in that area and that service that they have to relocate. So, yes. So
Okay.
to answer your question, is yes.
Okay, and to repeat what you just said, there are also not just staff that have to get moved, but also server areas and equipment that has to get moved there. Thank you.
Okay, and with that, I think we are handing it over to Consigli in the video, or just the video. I'm done, so.
Yeah, Christy, why don't you introduce yourself, and then we can ask the audience how we
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Christy Lyons. I'm a pre-construction executive with Consigli Construction, and we were hired in July to be the construction manager of the project. Our first and most important task was to do a schematic design cost estimate. That was done with another third party. We reconciled, and that happened over the course of the month of August. When we were interviewing for the project, we put together our initial phasing and logistics video, which takes you through the course of construction, how we plan to build the project. And that's really based on the schematic drawings that we had at the time. We took some liberties with that animation and that logistics planning, and it's something that the team will continue to refine from now until we start construction. But we'd love to share that video with you if you'd like to see our initial thoughts on how we're going to phase the project over the course of about 40 months is our current plan.
Yeah, so the video is 4 minutes long. I'm happy to, I just need to do some things here, and
Does the video speak to the timeline?
it does. Yep,
Can I say two things while you do that?
absolutely.
Yeah, I'm going to try this one. So, for not the last time, but we didn't say it tonight, Christy's a graduate of Burlington High School. She's probably going to get tired of people introducing her as a graduate of Burlington High School, but it's pretty cool to have her on board. And secondly, I would say that one of the benefits when we were looking at the different construction managing firms, one of the benefits is that they are just finished or finishing Arlington High School. And Arlington very closely matches with the challenges we're going to face in that they built a facility immediately adjacent to a facility that was being used still, so they had to deal with the noise and the safety, and so that was important to us that we had a firm that had some experience, recent experience with trying to operate a high school, build a high school right next to an operating high school.
So hopefully I press this. This is narrated by Tom DeRosa, who is the proposed superintendent for Consigli. So let me, hopefully this works. Come on. I'm trying. Yeah, but I don't hear it. Does that not come through that?
Can you go back to the beginning?
I can't hear it though.
Point the microphone at the speaker on your computer.
Point the microphone. Oh yeah. All right, we're gonna try this. I apologize.
Feedback?
Logistically, there's multiple considerations we take into account, but the one I really want to focus on.
I can narrate it as we go if you want.
All right.
And otherwise, folks can look on the website. It's also on the website with the narration from, as Terry said, Tom DeRosa, who is our superintendent that will be the one on site every day building the project. Couple key considerations. Obviously, safety is paramount. Chris talked about safety in the final condition, but obviously safety of the occupied campus with students and staff every day is critical. We did consider, truck patterns and how we're going to get into the site. This is a one-way in and one-way out from Cambridge Street. And our goal at every point of the way is to have complete separation of construction activities from the function of the high school. The first phase of construction is the addition. That's that 4- and 3-story wing that Chris talked about where all the new classrooms will be. And essentially what we're doing is we're taking over a portion of the practice field behind the student parking lot for our construction laydown area. And that gives us direct access to our construction site. We need to make some modifications to student drop-off, and so we're proposing to have students get dropped off in the student parking lot, and then they'll have a dedicated walking path along our construction fence line, but outside to the main entrance. And this takes place from the spring of 2027 till about the spring of 2029 when we complete the addition. The next few images here walk you through the timeline is at the top for reference, showing you our foundation activities, how we're going to start to excavate the building, working from the street towards the building. Steel will be erected using a central crane in the middle of that courtyard space. And then as we work through this first phase, we're going to look for opportunities in the summertime, the summer of 2028, to start some of the renovations of the gymnasiums, the rubber gym specifically, and the auditorium. There's a lot of infrastructure work that needs to take place, so we want to get a head start on those activities in the summertime when students are not there and there's less staff in the building. And really, this takes us through the completion of the addition in the early spring of 2029. And then immediately, we want to move over to the Center for Education, the portion specifically for the BECC students, so that we can renovate the existing cafeteria and have those students start the following fall of 2029 in their new space. So that's key for us. And then we're going to focus on demo and abatement once the students are out in the summer of 2029, working systematically to take down that center portion of the building. And the key there is that we're doing that heavy demolition in the summer when no students are there, and that happens in the summer of 2029. You can then see we're starting the addition of the new main entrance adjacent to the existing auditorium. In that school year of 2029 to 2030, we'll have to make some modifications to the bus drop-off. We're proposing for buses to drop off down at the gym entrance at the lower level. And this is all really temporary, and these are some things that we've decided as a team and that we'll continue to modify as we move forward. And this really shows the final stages of the project. The final phase will be renovating some of the components for the Center of Education, and at this point, the new high school is completely turned over. The new high school is functioning, and we're just making the final modifications in the Center for Education, completing with the final landscaping and hard surface in the summer of 2030. We do need to think about phasing and how some staff is going to be relocated, and we're going to continue to work with Dr. Conti and Bob to figure out how they get relocated. But ultimately, that's about 40 months of construction, culminating in the final completed Burlington High School campus.
Grand total, how many parking spaces are you?
I think it's 330 off the top of my head. The number of parking spaces is the question. 336, thank you.
We're not looking to take any away during construction. We're maintaining the staff lots as much as we possibly can and the student lot. There's some, once we turn over the new parking area at the new entrance, then we're going to start to move our construction area and take over some spots, but our goal is to not take away any existing spots than what currently exists.
If I can follow up on that parking, if you can give me this shot that you sent us.
Yep, sure. I got to move things around a little bit.
So just for the people at home, Jack is asking about the parking.
If I could also ask, my memory is that this this project ended up with more parking spaces than what we currently have. Is that accurate?
It is.
Okay, so we're at the end of this project, there'll be additional parking spaces beyond what's there right now.
What was the image that you wanted me to show? Is it the site plan? Sorry, it's all folded over. Oh, yeah, right here. And was there a question?
Yeah, I can see it.
It's up on
Oh,
the other screen. The screen
Sorry.
behind his head.
I don't have control of that screen.
Oh, this one's right at BCAT.
What it's hard to see is, what I would call this narrow area here, is the parking spaces.
Those are existing parking spaces now. This area here is where the rocks are all painted, if you know the site.
Yeah.
So I'm not following the question.
Well, I'm just concerned that if the
students are not the ones using that road, you won't have them backing out at the same time. My concern was if that's any student parking or teacher parking, they were all leaving at one time, and they're backing out into the flow of traffic. I was concerned that would be a traffic problem. If those are spaces that don't turn over all at once, I'm not as concerned. But if they're turning over at the school dismissal time with people driving, you've got a safety problem.
Mr. Kelly, those are all typically administration and my office staff park along that back road, so there's no student parking there.
I thought that this middle park is going to be administration.
I think that is going to be.
Are we right here?
Of the high school administration, because the principal.
Right here.
Over there.
The principal's office is moving to here, and then we'll have more handicap spots in this area. So again, I think some high school administration here, teacher parking is largely here, and then central office parking and preschool staff.
Spaces are along that ring road.
God, I think there might be 40.
Because if you added 55, I just don't like seeing spaces backing out into the flow of traffic.
But the extra spaces are in that corner, right?
Right, but Bob, do you know how many spaces are along?
The loop.
I think it's 57, I think, although just in this area, not including in front of the gym, so.
Yeah,
right here?
It's like 60 on that side.
Yeah, from here to the gym is roughly 57.
Yeah.
There's additional like 13 down by the gym when
You're talking about all along
Mr.
here.
Kevin, most of those workers work beyond when the student day ends. Most of those workers work beyond when the student day ends, so it works now. So no one likes to leave when the kids are leaving, so if the kids are out at, let's say they're out at 3, other than a lot of the athletes or the kids in the student parking lot, most of the workers are leaving between 4 and 5 o'clock.
Turning over at dismissal time.
No, sir.
Yes?
Hi, I have questions about the kids who will be in the building during construction. So I see there's like a small picture in the presentation of some of the reno work. So I think I see dates for like auditorium and gym reno, it doesn't say which gym. Front entrance reno, rubber gym reno. I want better clarity on the disruptive nature of this work. So like what will be available and when? What's the plan for these kids when something may not be available?
For everyone online, the question was, what's the plan for when spaces are being renovated and how is it disrupting, or what is the plan for where kids and students are relocated? Our plan right now for the renovations of the gymnasiums is to do it in the summer months when the students are not going to be affected. The auditorium, in reality, we cannot renovate that auditorium in only 2 months. So we're looking at starting that renovation sometime in the spring and having it turn over sometime in the early fall. There's a lot that we still need to figure out as a team as to exactly what the relocation or the temporary plan is, but that is our current plan, is to minimize that disruption. So we'll still be renovating the auditorium over the summer, working as much as we can, but in reality, it will trickle into the start of the school year. And I don't know what programs or assemblies that may affect, but we'll work with the school to, minimize that and find other areas to hold those events.
So some of the dates I see, if I was reading it correctly, I had to kind of zoom in and it wasn't a clear picture. Some of the dates I saw were like April of 27 starting, rubber gym rental April of 30. So I guess I maybe I'd ask the school of what is the plan for when these things aren't available. There's a lot of traditions that happen, beginning of the year, end of the year.
Yeah, again, we'd have to get a really detailed construction schedule, and we'd have to make arrangements. We're fortunate that we have 2 gyms, so we'd probably stagger them, so we would have space. We wouldn't have them both offline at once, and we would, again, we kind of make it work. I think that's one of the best things about the CAD Reno is the common spaces were designed for a high school of 2,000. So the auditorium is larger than we would get in an MSBA project. we would only get one gym in an MSBA project, so we'll end up with more and larger common spaces, and we would just want to make sure that programs were impacted as minimally as possible. You know, for some of the spring sports, most of them take place outdoors. We'd have to make sure that we could still do that and get the kids sort of transported out. But we would want their high school lives to be disrupted as little as possible.
Okay. There is, surprising to me, there is a good amount of parents who have also brought this up to me as a town meeting member in terms of these are the same kids that were in elementary school during COVID. These are some of the same kids that were like in a tiny Fox Hill. So I do think more details around how we minimize the disruption would be.
I'd just like to agree with you on that. I think we do need to know what's going to be disrupted and what isn't. And fortunately, in addition to 2 gyms, we also have facilities at the middle school, so we could move some events over to the middle school. But I think it's a really good point because these kids need not to have their lives disrupted, not to have their education disrupted, and we're going to do our best.
Bob, you have a question?
For the lady that graduated from Burlington High School, I congratulate you on your success thus far. And let me ask you, I think I know the answer, but you went to Burlington High School talking about, correct?
Yes, I did.
Right, and if you would mind your undergraduate degree, would you share with me about that?
Sure. I went to Roger Williams University, and I have a Master's of Architecture from Roger Williams.
For those who don't know, that's Rhode Island, correct?
That's correct.
Right, so the school had a positive effect on you, led to your success in college.
Absolutely. Led to my success in life sitting here today.
It's wonderful, wonderful, and I imagine you're not the only one. So I'd like to ask Dr. Conti a couple of questions.
Okay.
Last graduation class, 2025,
Yes.
how many students graduated?
I think it was,
We need to repeat the question.
how many students graduated?
2025.
I think it was 239, if my memory serves.
And a percentage, or how many of the 239 went on to further education, either a trade school, or, say, community college or four-year school?
I don't know the specific answer to that, but I would say over 80%,
80%?
somewhere. I don't have that number, Bob, but I can look it up for you.
And do you recall at this moment if some of them might have been accepted to an Ivy League school?
Last year, I think we had a couple kids. We had a kid into the Naval Academy that stuck out in my head too. So that's a difficult admit. I think the prior year we had a couple kids into Princeton. So I think it all depends on the students, what they're expecting. But I think kids can accomplish anything they want at Burlington High School. We have a very diverse student body, and we want students to be successful, whether they're entering into college or university, the workplace, or the military. So we really want to meet all of their needs.
Well, I just wanted to try to make a point that we have an example right here, and I know there's many more, that the school is providing an education, and it's not been a detriment to the student to move on to the next level. Would that be a fair statement?
The physical plant of the school, I would say, is starting to become a limiting factor, but no, the physical plant isn't I would say, Christy, and again, I know how many detentions she had, so believe me, it's not all roses here. So, no, but I just think it's, obviously, the programming and the teachers that work with the students every day that are most important, and I do think that Burlington has great educators. So I think that makes the difference, Bob.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
I have a question online if there could be an update on the HVAC systems.
An update on the HVAC systems?
Yes.
In what manner? How old they are, their functionality?
Well, let me try to unmute the participant and see if we can.
Just curious.
Oh, sorry, Neil, I hit the button at the same time.
Yes, I was just asking, based on the existing HVAC systems, what type of upgrades are going to be done?
I'm a little bit out of my area, but Chris, I'm assuming you're going to replace the HVAC systems and there are going to be new systems in the building? Is that,
Yeah.
It's part of the build, correct?
Yeah, so so HVAC is the shorthand term for heating, ventilation, air conditioning. And so the systems will all be new. And right now, if you actually look on some of the renderings, you can see some of the remnants of these head houses that are in there. And there's a whole bunch of air handling equipment up there that's huge, and I think Bob and his team are constantly tweaking to keep them running. But one of the big impetuses for us on this project in particular is to make new and more efficient systems, and so going with heat pumps in the building, and then having the option to add technology later if it becomes available or the incentives look right for ground source or things like that, which we still need to study more about. But the plan is for all of the HVAC systems to be new, which is what, when you chase that around the entire school, gets very invasive pretty quick. So it's one of those, that's the plan for HVAC.
So it'll be pretty much all electric? You're getting away from natural gas or oil or anything like that?
Yes, sir. Okay.
Any other questions?
I'm just going to move down here, see where we are.
Can I make a comment about that?
Yeah.
If I could add to that response, I mean, we've talked a lot about energy efficiency and sustainability, and I'm not sure if that's what you were asking about, but the new systems will be primarily electrified, and there was a decision to have a backup gas boiler for the very, very cold days, so that people were concerned about the heat pumps, but otherwise the HVAC system would be completely electrified. And also for someone who was asking earlier about the parts of the building that are being renovated, because we're going to heat pumps, each individual building will have its own heat pump system, so they don't need pipes to go between them for that kind of system. And so that was all looked at. And this building, the new building, will be much more sustainable, it will be much more efficient, and it should save us quite a bit of money on utility bills.
So you are going to go with a backup natural gas boiler for the real cold periods?
That was a decision that was made, yes, by the building committee, yep.
Are there any more questions online?
At this time, no, but
Yeah,
Mr.
sorry.
DeBona has his hand up.
Just something to add on that, so the current electrical service is able to handle that, or there's a new service coming in?
It'll be a new service.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was one.
Are there any other questions online? Can I?
Not at this time.
Okay. If BCAT could maybe switch back over to the presentation so that folks can see it. So in terms of costs, I will mention that there's a tremendous amount of information on our website, which hopefully you all have seen. In terms of what the warrant that got put originally back in mid-August, that number was a not-to-exceed number of $340 million. We literally had gotten the estimates, I think, the day before that meeting where we had to provide that. Over the course of August and into early September, the team sat down and went through line by line in terms of the cost for the project, and you'll see There's some terms here. PSR is preferred schematic report. It's just a stage in the feasibility study. SD is schematic design. That's where we are right now. And the total warrant article that will be amended and is in the book that you will see at town meeting is $334,769,880. So that's where we are. There is, as I mentioned, a considerable amount of information on the estimate on our website on the project finances tab. So I encourage you to review that if this is of interest to you. I know a topic of interest for everyone, including myself, but I imagine principally for residents of Burlington is the impact on taxes. Doug, I might just ask you as the chair of the Ways and Means Committee to address these slides, if you wouldn't mind. Obviously worked with Ways and Means to do this, but Doug is far more qualified than I am.
I don't know about that, but I'll take it. You get to talk about the pretty building, and then I have to talk about the price tag. That's great. So a couple of important things. One, you can't escape the cost. It's tremendous. It's unfortunate. It's very high. And so it's a hard number to swallow. But I want you to know that the committee took it very seriously and looked at many, many different designs and possibilities, and felt like this was the best option for the value and for keeping a campus feel and for solving some problems. It's important to know, we touched on it, but it's important to know that the main driver, the initial driver for this project was replacing end-of-life mechanicals. They're 60 years old, and they have to be replaced. And as you do that, you start triggering a cascade of codes that then require the next code to be updated, that then require the next code to be updated. Generally, if you spend 30% of the value of the building on upgrades, then you have to bring the entire building up to today's codes, and that's where you run into a problem. And so as you start talking about replacing the HVAC system and then the internal work that would require plumbing-wise and so forth, bringing in a new electrical service, you very quickly exceed the 30% of the value, even if you had the most jolly value that you could come up with. And so that's what drove this entire project. I'll tell you that I went into this as a member of the committee thinking, I'm going to push as hard as I can for just renovating the existing building. It's ugly. We'll get some windows cut into those concrete walls maybe, and maybe change the facade a little bit, and end up with still a good building for less money. I trust that the cost estimators and the engineers that looked over the last year and a half at the options, I believe that they're right, and the estimate was $330 million to just renovate the existing space that we have, making it ADA compliant, which is a huge expense. And you should walk around. If you have questions about what would really be required, you should take another walk around the high school, because there are an insane amount of changes that have to happen, including those long ramps, and figuring out how you're going to connect all of those multiple levels of first floors and second floors in an accessible way. Many of the elevators are not of appropriate size according to current code and would have to be replaced and expanded. And so you just run into a tremendous number of problems to bring the existing building up to code. All that being said, as we look at the numbers, we've used the average value, residential value in town that comes to us from town administration. It's $780,000. And so at $780,000, the eventual impact would be $1,182. Is that what we come out with? $1,182. $1,183. addition to the property tax bill. Again, a very big number. If you want to do it, there's a couple of other ways you can do it to figure out what your cost would be. The detailed one is 45.5 cents per $100,000 value of your house per $1 million borrowed. And you can use that for any other thing we borrow and spread out over a 25-year period. You can also do $152 for every $100,000 value of your house. That's also get you to the right number, and that'll tell you what we're spending. So the other important thing, I think, if you look at this is it's very painful, and you can't make that go away. It is spread out over some time. So nobody's going to see a $1,200 increase in their property taxes next year or the year after. We start to see, they're all big numbers, but you can see in fiscal year 2028, that would be about $515. And then as you get out to fiscal year 2030, 2031, 2032 is when we bump up to that final cost. So the money doesn't get borrowed until we get to that phase of building, and the tax impact gets spread out over that time. So it is a slightly graduated impact from the project.
The value of your house is going to go way up by the time.
Yeah, these are all today's dollars because everything goes up, right? The value of a house goes up, but the bill won't. So at some point, if the average value of our houses goes way up, it's going to be a smaller percentage because the bill due is $1,200 for the average house. Whether that average house becomes $2 million, the average $2 million house is still going to be $1,200. It doesn't go up incrementally in that way. It'll be less per thousand. Right. So that, in that sense, it stays the same. If you're the middle house in town, it's going to be $1,183. And that is if we borrow every penny. I'm telling you, there's a lot of pressure, and we're going to keep pressure on. This is a max number. This is a not to exceed max number. It's going to come in less than that. It has to come in a lot less than that to make a huge difference, but there are a tremendous number of contingencies here.
First, a comment to clarify, and then also a question. The third row on the table, which shows the impact on the house, that's cumulative additions. So in year 2028, it goes up by 420 from one year to the next, and then
Yes.
2029 it goes up an extra 300 or whatever. So
Right. That's the total cost. You're right.
the increment this year, it's not going to be 1,200 in 1 year.
Right.
So the 400 and next year goes up there and more.
Yeah.
This year goes to 20.
Yeah.
And then the second question was, how long does this go? But then it's going to drop off like a cliff at the end, right? This is a debt solution that will stay forever. Once
Right.
it's end of life, then it goes away.
Right.
How does that work?
It goes away. It's a separate
25?
25. Yeah, there'll be some bands, some bond anticipation notes, and then once the project is finished, then it'll be bonded for 20 years probably, because you'll only be 5 years into it. Could be 25 after. You can do up to 30, including the bands. Right now, that estimate is also a very conservative interest rate of 5%. We've been told that we can expect to see a more favorable interest rate than that also.
I think one of the points to be emphasized is that this is a not-to-exceed number. Hopefully will come in as much lower as possible. Once you hit the max amount after about 5 or 6 years, that's it. It doesn't change after that. No matter how valuable your house is, the number that you're paying for the school stays the same. And I think it's also important, something we brought up last night with the selectmen, is the high school is such an important building in any town. that just the fact that we have a new renovated, beautiful building, it draws people to the community, and it improves the value of everyone's home far more than what it will actually cost us. That doesn't make it any easier. Every quarter when you pay a tax bill, be a couple of $100 more than it is now, but in the long run, it makes the town just so much better in every way, both academically and because it's nice, and the building is a great place to congregate and have town meetings and other things. And overall, it just really improves everyone's property value.
Yeah, go ahead, but there's a question.
You gave us a number from the Center for Education, approximately 65 million. Can you break that down for the different sections?
So what I'm going to, so the estimate is actually online, and what I need to do is to simplify it, but it basically presently breaks it into 3 portions. The new wing, the existing to remain high school portion that's attached to the new wing, and the Center for Education. And so that's broken out by trade. And then below that line is things like site costs, all the contingencies, fees, soft costs. And so what I need to do, I know that, I know, and then, so what I'm going to try and do, and I'm going to include this in the presentation, is to break that out so that it's clear what those are. But, so say site costs, Christy, I think off the top of my head, our site costs, yeah.
Can you tell me what portion of the 65 is for the education, the early education? Can you tell me what portion is for the...
I can, based on a square footage number, sure. I can just break out by square footage and divide.
700 square per square foot, no matter what it is?
Right. That's how we would look at it.
So with those at home, the question was about the rough 65 million for the Center for Education, the different areas, and how much it would cost for the central admin, the BECC, all broken down out of that amount.
But the one caveat to that is that a space like BCAT that's in that Center for Education right now would probably remain largely the same as it is today. We're just going to go in and do the systems upgrades that like surgically do mechanical, electrical, plumbing that we need to do. But something like BECC is being completely built out new in an open space. And so
the early education would be more than 700, the BCAT would be less than 700 per square foot.
yeah, that's how it would break out.
And the administration area, there's a lot that could change to that.
Not a ton. There's no like major. There's no major.
It'd be a big cost. You have to fill a wall. You train something.
Yeah. So the question is if administration has a big impact as well. But that and similar to BCAT, the idea is that we're going to go in, make all the upgrades to the systems, which are mostly above the ceiling. There will be some wall work in there, but we're not looking right now to wildly just redo, not gutting the whole floor plate and restarting over from scratch. It's just where we need to surgically do things, we will do that. And so that's the plan for that space. And so it's, yeah.
Roughly 65, half of it may be the early education students.
I'd say let us do the numbers and get back, like actually give you stuff instead of guessing, but I think we know what you're asking and we can try to provide some clarity to that. I also wanted to just add some color to the aspect of giving money back from a guaranteed maximum price. So Consigli and TAPE finished a high school in Sharon a couple of years ago, and the project team was able to turn back $18 million to the town from the amount they approved at their borrowing question. And that was just through good buyouts by Consigli and effective document planning, and from the OPM, like we scheduled that, and that was built directly adjacent to another existing high school, similar constraints, but it is not it's not an illusion that you can vote for maximum price that we can use to work with contingencies and stuff like that if things happen. But the project team that you have on this project is focused on delivering schools as efficiently as possible, and we have a track record of doing that. So I think that's not on our side. We don't get paid more, but we also don't. Yeah. It wouldn't be borrowed.
It won't get borrowed.
Just wouldn't be borrowed.
We don't borrow it to the building decision each time.
Yeah.
I would just say also, in going through the qualification meetings, the bid qualification meetings, or whatever you call it, each of the architects that presented to us and filled out an inordinate number of forms to show the committee, and the construction managers, one of the things they show is their past projects, and did they come in on time? Were they over? Were they under? Why? And did they come in at budget, over budget, or under budget? And the coming in under budget was huge for us, and it really stands out. And so, as much as anything, they want to be able to put that on their next bid to say, hey, just like they just said, we turned 18 million back. They want to be able to say something like that about Burlington because it's going to help them get a job.
So you mentioned budget. What about timeline in terms of, like, are there any known risks at this point that would push the project out in terms of completion? Like, based on the land, the existing structure, I know there's some weird thing on here that would go over.
I don't know what that is, but okay, the basement, yeah, the tunnels. So any project, the biggest, so the question is, what are the unknowns that would drive a schedule impact? And with any project, and I can let my colleagues here from other firms support this or correct it, but with any project, the biggest unknowns become what's underground that you can't see right now. We have done a pretty good, to this point, survey of existing conditions underground with like borings. Once this is approved and the money goes forward, we have money set aside. That's part of the soft costs that Terry talks about. We have money set aside to do more of that so that we get the clear picture before we even break ground. There's going to be a whole year of design left to go. It's not like you vote this in November and in December there's shovels and equipment on ground. It's just going to be a whole nother year before we even get to that point. And so during that process, we're going to be fine tuning with Consigli, with Dorn Whittier, like what are the list of unknowns that we have to solve within the next 6 to 8 months so that we can guarantee the schedule will work. And if there is something big that comes up that we're like, oh my gosh, that's going to be catastrophic to some program that's going on in the high school, or we can't do something the right way, then we have to go back to the drawing board and figure out how to phase that in correctly. And so it really boils down to like existing conditions, uncovering everything that we can find about this building. They have a team that can go in and do like some selective demolition in places on weekends or long vacations. And so if we target a certain area and say, I don't know how that's connected, and when it comes down, we have to know how it's coming down. So that we don't have surprises, they'll do that. And then we can do some test pits in the ground to find out if there's ledge 6 inches under the surface or if there isn't. And those are the kind of things that will be mitigating risk. That's one of the primary reasons you do a CM for a project like this. They help you uncover and mitigate the risk up front so that you don't run into it later and it becomes a change order and a time delay. So.
I would just like to add that we built this project schedule. We have a detailed schedule that we submitted when we bid on this project, and we are confident in our ability to deliver on that schedule because of all of our recent relevant experience of projects same size, same scope. So in addition to what Chris said, we're confident that we're going to figure things out over the next year and be able to hit the ground running in the spring of 2027.
Bob, you have a question?
Yes, thank you. Do you have in your possession the original architectural drawings from the study that was in 1850? Is that something that you're able to have access to, and any other testing they may have done on the original site?
Make sure we.
Yeah, so the question is, do we have access to original drawings for the building? And the answer is yes. Bob's team has a lot of drawings for every system in the building.
It's a little-known drawing room.
A little-known drawing room. So we do have access to those. We've scanned them. We have them all digitally in our possession. We actually have reached out and communicated with the structural engineer from the time to understand. I don't think there's anybody still actively working there, but they have their own, they have their own file system that isn't with the school that we've been probing as well. And so with that, we have a good lead on what's there. It doesn't give you all the answers on why certain things happened the way they did. And over time, some things have been modified that we don't have record of. And so that's some of the chase that we're doing. We actually, early on, before, our first step on this building was we got it 3D laser scanned. And so that was one of the first things we did, which is precision, as precise as you can be, on exactly where every wall and door and window and everything is. And that saves some time on our front end, but then we can overlay that with those existing drawings and start to see where discrepancies might be, and the differences between what was drawn and what was built. Those can sometimes have differences, and so I think we've got a pretty solid. I feel as confident as she is about schedule. I feel confident that we understand the building really well at this point, and that there's still some little things we got to figure out, but there's nothing major, in my opinion, that would stop us.
Yeah, I was just out of curiosity, and if it was a home for it.
Yeah.
I would have thought you would have, and they were made the drawings back then.
They were, yeah. It is a help, and it's actually really fun to look at them because they were all hand-drawn, and you can pick up the nuance of a hand-drawn drafting, which is really near to my heart as an architect. And so there's just things you can get from reading a set of drawings like that don't come through on a computer-made set of drawings that we do now, unfortunately. But I enjoy it, and I've had a lot of fun looking at them. So.
All right, we're a little over at this point in time. You guys have any other slides to wrap this up?
I just have this one last slide, and it's what if town meeting vote fails, which is something I don't like to consider. There's some points on here. I think we've made this throughout the presentation. The facility is 60 years old. It's at end of life. We've talked about a number of the deficiencies that we have tried to address with this proposed addition renovation. The town thankfully allocated $1.5 million. If it doesn't go through, there will be no tangible result from all that work. And when you start again, you will have to effectively start again, which is not something I would want to do. We've talked about code compliance. To Dr. Conti's point, the walls aren't what are teaching the kids. It's the faculty and staff and the administration and the support of their parents, but the facility itself is failing them. And so I just think that the building committee, the school committee, has tried to bring forth the best solution to bring this facility up to modern standards in a 21st century educational environment. If there are no other questions, I think this has been super productive. I appreciate all of the questions. You can ask more questions throughout the course of this week. All you have to do is go on to bhsbuildingproject.com. You can ask questions there. They come directly to me. If I don't have the answer, I will work with our team to provide you those answers. There's obviously some action items that I have taken from here, and Nick and I will dutifully address those. This presentation is going to change somewhat in terms of I want to take into account the select board meeting that we had last night, the meeting that we've had today, a meeting with Ways and Means tomorrow. We will share that presentation in advance. In addition to that, we do have, if you're a parent or see some of our social media, we will have a compilation video of this entire project and process and how we started and where we got to that we intend to show at town meeting, which I think for those town meeting members that maybe aren't fully aware of the project, it will give you a very quick 10-minute, this is what's going on, and then we will provide a further presentation during town meeting and answer questions then. So again, I really want to thank everybody, both here in person and online, and we look forward to seeing you all again next Monday.
On the town meeting webpage on the town's website, I will add this the slideshow. If you guys want it updated, send it to me and I'll update it there for you. I will also put a link to the building project's website so you can easily access it.
Great, thank you. Thank you, everybody.
You guys are good to go.
We're good to go? Guess we say good evening. Go ahead, Todd.
Good evening, everyone. For the hardened group here in real life and those online, I'm Todd Fremont-Smith with Nordblom Company. We're a local development firm based here in Burlington. With me is Bob Buckley, our real estate attorney, to keep us out of trouble. We wanted to talk tonight briefly about the proposal for additional housing within the MBTA zone across the Middlesex Turnpike from Bancroft. So just for those who don't know, I've been working at Nordblom about 30 years, since 2006, when we first talked about rezoning Northwest Park, which was an industrial park. Bob and I have been working on this project with the town, some of the people in this room. So I broke this presentation down into chapters. I will go a little quickly tonight because this is a subcommittee meeting. I'll take my time, I think, more at town meeting, but if I'm going too quickly, just stop me. Let's see if I can move this over. Nordblom Company, 101 years old, a sixth generation family company, privately owned, based here in Burlington. Here it is. We've got about 6 million square feet under management, about 3 million square feet here in Burlington. So we own, and when I say we, I mean the people for whom I work, we own this blue outline. So Northwest Park runs from 2nd Avenue, Mall Road, up all the way up to Bedford, really, encompassing our Network Drive campus, which is now called Blue Sky, which was the former Sun Micro campus, former Oracle campus. So that's about 3 million square feet running from Mall Road up to Route 62. The site that we're going to be discussing tonight has a little star on it. That's jazzy. It's right across the street from Bancroft. The park dates back to the 50s when high tech was sort of heavy industry. Today, through a lot of parcel by parcel redevelopment and planning with the town, we've created 3rd Avenue. We've got 3 multifamily buildings over there now. We've got 140,000 square foot Wegmans, which is doing very well, by the way. We've got Lifetime Fitness, 130,000 square feet, doing very well, number 2 in the country. And all the businesses, because we did this with you at 3rd Avenue, all the businesses in Northwest Park are doing very well. We're sold out at the park. The rents are very high. It's the environment we created, I think. It's a location in Burlington. It's the environment we created at 3rd Ave. And it's also the fact that a lot of those buildings are single-story buildings with loading docks, and that's really what's in demand today. What's less in demand today is 3- and 4-story office buildings in the suburbs, as you might imagine. We do have an MBTA that takes us to Alewife, luckily. We've been spending a lot of money on sidewalks, trees, public spaces. I am going fast. Stop me if you... one of the planning board members even got us to build some pickleball courts, which were great, activates the people are coming out playing pickleball. 3 years ago, we started a program of public art with the New England Sculpture Association, so we've been buying, I'd say, spending $30,000 a year to purchase. We run a competition, nationwide competition. We have a jury, and we purchase art. We've been concentrating that on 3rd Avenue with art that's centered around animals, because that's family friendly. As we move out into the park, it'll get more geometric and more abstract. We remain a mixed-use assemblage. This is Northwest Park itself, not including Blue Sky. So if you look at the park on a parcel-by-parcel basis, the vast majority of these parcels remain in commercial use. And we've got terrific tenants, as this town knows and should be proud. Really anything that comes out of Cambridge or Somerville that's cool and exciting and wants to make something comes to the Route 3, Middlesex 3 corridor. But Burlington really is the crown jewel of M3, and we've got these clusters of 3D printing companies, medical device companies, high-tech companies, and they all come to work. They all have to make things and build things, and they can't screw a robot together in their kitchen, so they They come to work, and that leads to a very dynamic commercial environment. Our most recent commercial building, and we are commercial developers when the market isn't imploding as it is now, 270,000 square foot building. I know all of you know this, half of which was taken by the Broad Institute, which relocated their genomics platform from Cambridge to Blue Sky Center to Burlington, which is a huge win. Also, Vericel Corporation took the other half of the building, and they're doing very well too. This is just a picture of the ribbon cutting. From your vantage, why are we doing this? We're doing this to bolster and strengthen the tax base. We're actually doing it to create a more exciting environment and where we can draw tenants into the mousetrap, create a better mousetrap. But every time we renovate a building or tear down a building or do something new, we are seeing 200% to 300% increases in real estate taxes. Nordblom currently remits about $16 million a year. That's 2025 to the town of Burlington. We're happy to do it. We haven't had any protests. And so again, just the ecosystem at Northwest Park, you see all these different logos, all these different companies. 3rd Ave here at the center. 4th Avenue really anchored by Lifetime and Lifetime Living. And then this box is the subject property that we're talking to town meeting about, right across from the Bancroft Steakhouse, right across where there's a pedestrian crossing. So that's Nordblom. Chapter 2 is MBTA communities. As the town knows, the state initiated this process by which every community had to have a district of not less than 50 acres where multifamily was allowed by right. You went through your process in response to that law. It was actually a law, state law. And you created these 5 MBTA communities overlay districts called MIC-MODs. I did not make that up. The first parcel you placed on Beacon Village. The second zone you placed on existing multifamily at Heritage. So the trend here is of the 5, 4 were placed on existing multifamily deliberately. The 5th came to near us, which is across from Middlesex Turnpike, to a zone where the town meeting felt that housing could be appropriate. So we were very glad. We own buildings 2 and 3 in this district. Building 1 is, again, a very successful single-story flex building, probably the highest and best use. Building 4 we tried to buy. We've been unable to buy it. It's a smaller building. It's only 1 acre. And Building 5 is Staples, which we're told is doing very well and unlikely to change. That retail center down at Vine Brook, by the way, has done an amazing job of reinventing itself, in our opinion. So we own these 2 buildings. In the town consultants report, which was done by VHB, actually it was, I think there were other consultants involved, but there was housing shown. You see Bancroft here. This is just a blocking diagram, but in the district that the town did think housing was appropriate, there was housing of a reasonable massing shown in the town zone sketching. So then we get to Chapter 3, which is what do we want to do? What we'd like to do with the town meeting's approval is demolish 2 obsolete office buildings, I'll show them to you in a minute, and build a 188-unit multifamily community. 188 units, that's about the size of Tremont. Tremont's 180, so it's right in the same. It's a great management size for us. It's not 300 units, it's not 400 units, it's the size of Tremont, which has been very successful. We just spent $1.5 million, by the way, upgrading the Tremont interiors. If you get a chance to walk in there, it's beautiful. It matches up with Lifetime Living in terms of finishes. So the buildings, this is a view north on Middlesex Turnpike. You can see one of the buildings through the trees there on the right. They were great buildings when they were built, but currently they are clearly Class B buildings. They have very limited loading. You walk in, I'll show you in a minute. They have a split entry lobby, so it's not on one level. As I said, the single-story flex buildings are doing really well. Multi-story suburban buildings that are not really in demand. This building in particular, it's functionally obsolete. Mechanical systems are gone. Windows are very small. It's just not desirable. People would rather go to Blue Sky Center. And we have done, interestingly, about 500,000 square feet of leasing at Blue Sky in the last 2 years, which is great. So we'd like to tear down these older buildings. They cannot compete with the flight to quality Class A buildings with which we're competing. As people come back to the office, they don't want to come back to this office. So then the question is, what do you do with it? And our vision is, as you look out from 3rd Avenue, if we could extend 3rd Avenue across the street and build, this is a Stantec designed, Stantec's a big architecture firm. Copley Wolf is the landscape architect. We've spent a lot of time figuring out this building. And so what we're saying to town meeting is, this is the building, this is WYSIWYG. For those of you old enough to remember, what you see is what you get. This is the building. We're signing an agreement with the planning board, with the select board actually, to hold our feet to the fire. That is the exact building. It's been figured out. The windows are figured out. This is the view looking north on Middlesex Turnpike. And again, the whole point is to extend 3rd Avenue across Middlesex Turnpike. And when you're driving on Middlesex Turnpike, to just slow things down, to feel that architectural compression, to feel like you're arriving in a district, and to just extend 3rd Ave. As part of this project, this diagram is showing Wegmans on the left in yellow. The idea is that this is a great place. We've always tried to get people from Northwest Park to the mall. It's just really hard to do that. This site allows us to create an ADA accessible pathway through the site down to Great Meadow Road. We're working with the town to get a MassWorks grant to put a multi-use path sidewalk on Great Meadow Road. So you'll be able to walk through this existing. We're going to augment this as well with the planning board. But there is a legitimate pedestrian crossing right in front of Archer. You cross over to our site, and then you go follow the dotted red line. You go across the front of the site, and then down through this linear park down to Great Meadow Road, and then down to Tate, Cava, and Life Alive. This is a view from Great Meadow Road that we did for the planning board. There are legitimate, I mean, Tate is the real deal. Life Alive is the real deal. So we do think people are going to go across, and it's a very short walk. In terms of fiscal impact, we hired Mark Forgier to do a full fiscal impact study. He met with police chief, fire chief, school superintendent, all the departments. He worked up his econometric model, deducted for the different police calls or ambulance calls or school children, and came up with a $450,000 net annual income tax estimate, working with the town department. So someone once said at the land use committee, but you already have a building there paying taxes. We do. That building, those buildings pay $157,000 today. With Mark's projected $454 gross, that's a net of about $300,000 net to the good. He also is projecting about $75,000 in excise taxes. So we do think that this project net will generate about $370,000 more than what is currently being paid on the site. So it is a financial benefit to the town, at least according to our experts. So, and I'm moving quickly, but what are we asking town meeting? We're asking to create a new sub-district as part of that district. There were 5 parcels that you designated MBTA. This is the one in which housing could be built because there isn't already housing there. We're asking that this pink area, the 2 buildings that we control, be sub-districted, and so therefore you have control over those 2 buildings. We're not proposing any other changes to the orange zone, so no other buildings in the district can propose any changes without coming before town meeting as we are. And we're asking for dimensional relief. We're asking for 70 feet and 57 units an acre. The underlying zoning allows up to 30 units an acre. It was asked, and I know that this is probably where the rub is for a lot of people. The select board said to me directly, what are you going to say to town meeting when they ask you, why are you trying to go to 57 units an acre instead of 20 or 30 units an acre? And I said, there are a few things, but one was we felt that the original underlying zoning was a little bit light. 30 units an acre is okay if you're in a field in I won't say wherever, but in a more urbanistic sense, it's just not dense enough to get the building that we architecturally want. The second point is that this site drops off 26 feet from front to back. I'll show you that a little more, but it allows us to put 2 levels of structured parking under the building. So when you're on Middlesex Turnpike looking at the building, you won't even see a garage. You'll just see the building, and the parking goes under. So that's very expensive. But that allows us to tighten up the site, to have over 40% open space, and to build that pathway connecting Great Meadow Road to Northwest Park. So there were good reasons why we did this. The goal, as I was talking to Bob this morning, our goal is to create this sort of village experience, this district, when you get, coming up Middlesex Turnpike, you get to that light, and you could feel 3rd Avenue on both sides, and that there's that resonance. And to bolster Northwest Park and 3rd Ave. More residents, and even the manager of Wegmans told me when that Lifetime Living opened up, they felt it at Wegmans. And if you talk to I've included some letters to town meeting from people like Archer and Bancroft. You get 188 apartments across the street from Bancroft. It's going to move the meter for Bancroft and Redstone and Tony C's. We are continuing to make Third Ave better. We actually can't talk about it yet, but we have a new concept coming into Third Ave. I want to keep moving some of the concepts there around and improving them so they don't get stale. But the goal is to create a sort of a district village feeling across Middlesex Turnpike, take advantage of that 26-foot grade change, which lets us put the parking under the building. And that results in an architectural expression which fits 188 units. It's not like we said, oh, we need more units, more units, more units. We don't. We think the building fits on the site very well. It has a very high open space ratio. 80% of the cars are under the building, which is unusual for us. I'll also point out we're doing 15% affordable, which is the highest we've ever done. So just benefits over the existing site. I won't get too much into this, but it's a reduction it's an increase in open space. It's actually a reduction in peak hour traffic, which I was glad to see. It's a 74% reduction in surface parking spaces, and then the whole site, curb to curb, would be ripped out and replaced. So from a stormwater standpoint, it'd all be brand new, high-tech, super clean, as we are across the street from the marsh. You can see these two buildings on the right side of this drone aerial. It really does relate to Third Ave, I think. We think it's the right thing to do. We've studied it. We think this is the right next step for Third Ave. Massing, I know height and massing are, I keep hearing it over and over again, so we took the renderings and we put the heights on them. So you can see on the left side, although we're asking for 70 feet, that's really, our average mean grade around the site is 68 feet. So Bob said, put in 70 feet in the zoning. The 68 feet is a zoning definition. The back side of the building is taller than the front, but on Middlesex Turnpike, you'll see that the 41 feet at Boston Interiors lines up very closely with the step back in the residential at 44 feet, and then we step back again to 58 feet. So the highest point on Middlesex Turnpike is 58 feet. It's really going to read like 44 feet. It's going to read like a four-story building. And then you can see Archer at 67. And again, from Third Avenue, you see again, you can see it, yeah. You can see the top of the Boston Interiors building, 41 feet, and that sort of echoes architecturally the 44 feet across. And again, we really think this is an attractive building. We're using a very good architect, and we think the massing relates to Third Ave. The backside is taller. It just is because, again, we have that 25-foot drop, so everything just gets a little bit taller. You see the two-story garage, which is under the building, but still very attractive. And you can see on the left side of this image, the linear park, which is going to be designed by Copley Wolf, which takes you right up to the Cambridge Savings Bank. That's actually the Cambridge Savings Bank building on the left there. So we think it's going to be we know it'll be ADA accessible. It'll be a very nice pathway connecting us down to the mall, down to Tate. So just, you know, it's been a journey with Northwest Park. This is 2007. Bob and I were laughing about this. This is I think one of the planning board members said, I can remember what Northwest Park used to look like. And this was 2007, before we started anything. Then it took us a few years to get going. It was a pretty bad recession. 2008, 2009, pretty bad recession. We got some state money. We matched. Nordblom's threw in $1 million. I think Greg Bialecki gave us $3 million. We started building roads. Then we started tearing down buildings, which is a really hard thing for landlords to do when you have a cash-flowing building. And then we did. Archer came along. Wegmans is in the background. And then in the end, we created something that I think is it's sustainable. It's got legs. As I said, Wegmans. They won't tell me the numbers, but they tell me they were very, very happy. I did get out of them that the average check size is higher in Burlington than it is in Chestnut Hill. So that's interesting tidbit. But Archer is doing really well. Very, very good rates. All the restaurants, despite the fact people haven't come back really for lunch, the restaurants are just so busy at night that they're still doing above pre-COVID sales numbers. And we are starting to see more daytime population coming back. It's a struggle. So this is the idea, and this is exactly what we would build. It's not kind of sort of what we'd build. It's exactly that building. Environmentally, it would be Burlington's first passive house building. The building codes are almost there anyway, so we've made the decision just to go passive house. We've cataloged all the trees. We're going rooftop solar. We've now put solar on all of our multifamily, 2 out of 3 multifamily buildings. And then obviously electric cars. Financially, we're redeveloping obsolete office buildings. They really are obsolete. We're creating workforce housing. We're complying with MBTA communities. We're connecting pedestrians with Mall Road. We're using high percentage of structured parking, which is very expensive. The building permit would be about $750,000 paid to the building department, and then you'd have about $450,000 of gross taxes coming off the site every year. We are providing private matching funds for the town to chase MassWorks grants. There is a grant filed. We're going to find out next month whether we've got it. If we don't get that grant, we've committed to reapplying next year for a larger grant. So the first grant was $1.2 million. I think we think this project deserves more like $3 million from the state, and we're in close contact with.
When we say project, what we're saying, we're going to leverage this project.
Yeah.
That money's not coming to us, but that money is going to be available to do meaningful improvements in the town in this area, because we think that this project, because it achieves the stated goal of the state in terms of creating housing, not doing it an illusion by zoning on areas that will never be built, will put this project, this town, at the front of the line for discretionary funding. And we can leverage that to look at some infrastructure improvements that will serve the greater community, because it achieves the policy objective. It's going to be, so this proactive planning to try to create some state monies to enhance this whole area. And this area includes the Brixmore, which is Tate and Carver and down there, so that if it's done right, it's almost, you're going to have a barbell effect, where you'll have Third Avenue, which is vibrant, and then you'll be going easily down to the mall.
That's it. That's our presentation. I hope I didn't talk too fast. Yes.
So, because we're putting up, both housing, what is the price going to be on one of those units?
So the question is, what is the price on the apartments? And the pricing, it's market driven. So 15% are affordable. So that comes right off the 188. 28 units of the 188 are affordable.
And that's set by the state.
That's set by the state. And then it's the market. Market pricing is what it is. I know that some of those units, there's been a softness recently. So something that was $3,500 for a 2-bedroom a year ago is now down to $3,000. So the prices go up and down with the market, but they would just follow the market. They're market rate apartments.
They're all apartments, no condos.
Correct. Yeah. Jack.
Ratio of studio, 3-bedroom, 2-bedroom.
I'll bring that next week, but it's typically 50-50 ones and twos. That's typically what we see.
No threes?
No, we'll have some threes and some studios. I'll bring that. I'll make a point of making that chart and presenting it next week. I'm sorry I don't have it.
The threes of the studios are small fraction.
They're a small fraction. It's nice to have some 3-bedrooms because there are families that are renovating a house, and then it's nice to have some smaller units because there are young nurses at Leahy that just want to get into the building, get into Third Ave at a lower price point. We see a lot of that too. And then 1-bedrooms, it's usually a young couple or a single person or. Correct. Yeah. Well, the affordable is probably a different demographic, but the unit spread will be the same. Yeah, that's.
The state will be fine.
We do think something like 30 or 40% of the people who live at Northwest Park work in Burlington. That's the last time I had that zip code analysis. A very high percentage work in Burlington or in lower Middlesex 3, right in the neighborhood.
How many overall parking spaces?
We're parked at, I don't have it in front of me. Let me think. Yeah. 1.7 per unit, I know that. I apologize.
90% of them underground.
80% are under the building.
Yeah, I was just curious.
Yeah, we know that we need 1.7 parking. The zoning calls for 1.5. The planning board can give us up to 10% relief, which will get us to about 1.65 per unit. We think we can live with that, but we know that because we manage apartments right in that neighborhood, so we know what people want and what they need. Yeah. Sorry. 1.7 is what I think you'll see the final number would be 1.65 because that's all the planning board can give us, if they give it to us.
They'll pay extra for the park as well?
Typically they do for covered parking, yeah. But then we lower the rent and we try to create different revenue sources, yeah. And again, it's all market-based. It's if another building down the road is doing something different, we have to adjust to it. Yeah. But, again, more housing should create downward pressure on pricing, right? At some point. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal about New Rochelle, New York, I'll try to find it, that talked about, well, they created a lot of housing, but they did finally push pricing down. So this is our vision for the next big thing at Northwest Park. It would be a $100 million investment. It doesn't really make sense financially right now. Many of you might know that in Boston, there's something like 25,000 permits already issued. Nobody's building anything because the construction costs are too high. I think the Nordblom family takes a 50-year view of this, and I think that this will move ahead.
You wouldn't be building these right away.
It would take us probably most of next year to to do the civil engineering, 3 or 4 months for civil engineering. Take us 5 or 6 months to get through the boards. Then we'd start our $2 million worth of drawings. So it's probably 2 years before it starts, 4 years before it delivers. Take 24 months to build this.
The intent is not to mothball.
No, we want to.
It's not to mothball it. It's not we're not merchant builders.
Yeah, but
This is not a drive-in theater.
you wouldn't see that it
No,
takes.
but-
Yeah, it takes literally 24 months to build these buildings now. We would use a local contractor. I know that to us, that's meaningful when we hire someone like Erland and they hire people in the community. Makes a difference, but yeah, they're very good. And they're Burlington headquartered as well. So.
But the permitting, which is a factor, to be honest with you, why there's a housing crisis in Massachusetts, the permitting on a project is a long haul. And
Plus you have to pay him.
He's worth it.
But
any questions online or?
I have none. I've
Okay.
also sent out a prompt too.
I apologize. We're going to tell the same story next week, so feel free to get a coffee when I step up.
But I told Todd this morning, the most compelling photo was the one back in 2007. When you look at that, and you look what's there today, and we have the same vision, not just for this site.
Then we couldn't talk at all, we wouldn't even talk to us.
He was a good guy.
He was a good guy.
It's a nice family, I can tell you that. I've been there 30 years. Yeah, yeah.
But
And Burlington's very lucky. They have the Kelly family, the Gutierrez family.
and this would activate.
Simon's been here forever.
This
Yeah.
would activate that whole quadrant. I mean, people would essentially be able to park their car on a, it sounds very Bostonian, park the car on a Friday night.
And then go to,
Walk to the mall,
Yeah.
walk to Third Avenue, walk to Tate.
Yeah.
It would be a very pedestrian-friendly environment. And that, if you knew what that pathway costs going through the site, it's an amazing figure.
Yeah, we're working with Copley Wolf on the landscape architecture, so the public realm is very important, particularly at Third Ave and in and around Third Ave and everywhere. But yeah, the cost of that park is about $450,000 according to.
And that's going to be open to the public. It's not
40,
gonna
yeah.
be- It's not going to be exclusive.
We're granting a permanent easement to the town.
I would also add, I think from last night's talk with the select board, there's also some public space.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're making available, as we do in any of our multifamily projects, if the town had a community meeting it wanted to have or a small, so we're making available, I think, a 2,400 square foot community room for the town to use. You book it like a tennis court and we'll reserve it for you.
You don't do condos, you do.
Yeah, we don't do condos for a variety of reasons. Here, I think in particular, because I don't want someone calling me up and saying, Bancroft's too loud. Can you shut Bancroft off at 8:30 at night? So I don't want that. Condos also generate ordinary income taxes, which is not what real estate investors are looking for. They're looking for capital gains, passive. And then in year 10, because there's a 10-year statute of limitations, in year 9, Bob Buckley sues me. We always say that the purpose of the condo association is to sue the developer.
Yeah,
So it's just, it's a complicated choice to make. I would like to see for sale housing at some point.
But the statute provides up to 7 years, you can still file claims against the contractor if you have a condo. So what condo associations do, they wait until 6.5 years and then they sue the contractor.
Yeah. Or the developer.
Or when I say that.
They do now, yeah.
It makes it difficult for the residents.
Yeah, they try to.
But I know it's out of the main lane here, but given apropos what was talked about previously, if you go down tonight or last night, Monday night is a typical night for restaurants to be vacant in most jurisdictions. Monday night's a slow night. A lot of them don't even open. I live in the city. A lot of them don't open on Monday nights because no one comes. you know, Third Avenue, in that area, they're packed. There's a lot of activity. And Burlington gets an enormous amount of tax revenue from the meals tax. So doing something like this is not only going to continue to activate those restaurants, but it's going to hopefully jumpstart and activate the restaurants at the mall and down at the Bricksmore, I call it the Bricksmore site, the Tower Record site, that are new. So you're preserving that revenue source. And that's important. The last time I looked, I think it's north of $3 million in the meals tax, which is extraordinary. I think the closest is Paul Fan. But it's going to be a pedestrian activated area where people will go on a Monday night or a Tuesday night, which is how you judge whether this is an activated zone, and this is an activated zone. So.
Had enough? Oh, we're going to be on Monday night, you think?
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
Mr. Byatt said.
Yeah. So.
One night.
There's a vote for one night.
I have a client in Southport that's not going to be happy, but that's okay.
Not looking to prove you're wrong, don't rush
Don't
too much.
knock on wood.
I'm not going to be rushing anything. I'm just making a prediction.
Oh, yeah. Take a bet.
I think it's doable.
Sure.
I think it's going to be 2 nights, please.
Nope, one night.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for your time.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you, everyone online.